Sunil Shetty, very sweet. We were chatting on DM. I don't know him at all, but he was very kind. And he said, here's my number, call me right now. I have an idea, something I want to talk to you about. And I was in Coimbatore going to Isha Foundation to meet Sadhguru. And once I entered college and I realized that the other 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds were looking at me like, what is this?
Did you have a goal when you started Instagram? How do you find a right contractor? Finding a person who's technically good and client-facing is a task. It's hard.
I think the interesting question would be, does design dictate the culture or does the culture dictate the design of a space?
What's your day like?
I plan my entire year. So final call is always mine in everything.
My way or no way?
My way.
It's just my way.
What I've done on Instagram is very much that
And
way.
you didn't care about what the other people are saying. How does social media work? Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Headway to Growth. I'm Sagar. I'm a chartered accountant by profession and I run a company called Sahi Designs, which is into commercial fit-outs. Today we have Ridhi Khosla Jalan, who is a global interior content creator. She started off as a background in finance and marketing, ventured into interior designing, and now a full-time influencer. Let's explore Ridhi's career into interior designing and what made her become a full-time influencer.
I am an interior designer that has now become a design content creator and is venturing into design education. So in terms of what do I do for work, I think those three verticals is what sums it up.
What are the verticals, if you can explain more in detail?
So interior design,
Okay.
design content creation, and design educator.
Okay.
So as an interior designer, I take up projects and do sites. As a design content creator, I create content for social media platforms. And as a design educator, I'm creating courses that would be on various platforms to educate people about design.
You have done your degree in finance and marketing.
Yes.
How did you get into interiors?
Well, I was 18 when I decided to do finance and marketing. Though I really wish I did architecture. I just didn't have the gumption to switch major at that point. But I think I would bring it back to my childhood. My parents would always move into an apartment or a home or a bungalow, even if it was fully done, and they would break it apart and renovate completely because they love the process of it. So I've grown up in multiple homes where I've only stayed in a room and the kitchen is functioning because everything else is under renovation. So that for me was normal. And then when you grow up in that environment, you end up just learning. And for me, I think that's when I was so exposed to it and I realized this is what I really like. It comes intuitively.
And then did you take up a course in interior designing?
I did. When I was 27, I went back to college and did a degree for 2 years and became an interior designer.
So was it a bachelor's or did you do architecture?
I was a bachelor's. Architecture is a much longer process, which I would have loved it, but I couldn't commit 5 years of my life to it. Because I already had one child, I was pregnant with another one. So 2 years was all I could give. So I said, okay, let's at least get interior design, if not architecture.
All right. That's at 28 doing learning something new, which obviously you had. But again, going through the whole process of learning, going to college. So that's quite a task when you're managing 2 kids.
Actually, I think it's a mindset thing. I think because I grew up in Singapore and the US, over there, for them to change career at different parts of their life, at different ages, and to go back to college is not a big deal. So I came with that mindset. And when at 27, I said, I want to go back to college. Thankfully, my husband and my family were very supportive. And once I entered college and I realized that the other 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds were looking at me like, what is this pregnant 27-year-old auntie doing over here?
You were pregnant then?
I was pregnant. I actually was pregnant, had a miscarriage, and then got pregnant again. So through that whole process, that's when I realized that there was no other 27-year-old in the entire college, and I was an outlier. And I actually went back to my family and said, wait, is this not a normal thing that people do here? And my husband was like, no, you're doing it. And I understand because of the US mindset, but people in India don't change career so easily and go back to college at 27. I was like, oh, I just didn't know. I was just so preconditioned, I think, the American way.
And where were you back then?
Where was I means?
When you were doing this whole interior
I was in
design?
Bombay.
You were in Bombay?
Yeah.
Or this is after you got married?
This is after I got married and moved to Bombay.
Okay.
Now I've been in Bombay 15 years.
You've been in Bombay. How do you like Bombay to where were you in Singapore and?
So I grew up in Singapore and LA. Amazing cities, beautiful cities, but I love Bombay. I love Bombay. I would never leave Bombay. I'm very clear. I might travel the world. I might spend a certain number of months abroad, but I will always come back to Bombay.
People say that Bombay, it has a buzz.
It
Where
has an
people
energy.
Yeah, it has the energy.
It has an energy, and the people have no ego, very warm, very welcoming. The design community in Mumbai is very warm, very open, very welcoming. So I have had a great experience here. I don't see why I would move.
But how is it like the clients you cater to?
Yeah.
The clients you would have catered to, say, somewhere in LA versus the clients what you cater to Bombay. Is there any difference between the clients what you cater to?
I think there's a huge difference because I think in the US, everything is very transactional, like how we were talking earlier. And over there, even interior designers charge by the hour. So you're literally looking at the clock. So you can imagine how business-like and transactional it is. That's not my personality. I really get into the lives of my clients and it becomes a relationship. In fact, I have done family vacations with my clients. And, that's how close you become. So I think that's something that's unique to India or Bombay for that matter, but not so much the US or the UK.
They're more to their point, to their work, and
Get the job done.
Get the job done.
Yeah, over there it's more get the job done. Here it's relationship and of course get the job done. You have to get the job done, but it's also building that relationship that lasts through the years. It's not just one home that I'm doing. It's, you use the same designer usually multiple times over multiple homes. So I think it's that relation that I really enjoy over here.
And the reference point also really helps, right? Because then the kind of business what you're doing with the client is not a transactional business. It's more relationship business.
Yeah.
And relationship business generates more referrals in terms of their families, their friends,
I think
and all that stuff.
communication is better. I think if you have a good relation with your client, you're able to communicate better and they understand your point of view, you understand their point of view. So the chances of disagreements are also lesser. So for me, the reason the relationship happens is because the communication is strong. Let's put it that way. It's because of communication that the relationship happens.
So in the whole journey, which were your turning points? Which were the highs and lows?
A lot of highs and a lot of lows. But you mean in terms of my entire career?
Yeah, your career-wise.
So 27, 28, I got my degree as an interior designer. That's also when I just kind of gave my final exam and gave birth at the same time. So went hand in hand. And then I decided to set up a children's furniture store. So I did that in Kem's Corner in Bombay because I felt there was nothing in India. At that point, IKEA hadn't entered. There was no pottery barn. So if you want to do a child's room, where do you go? So that's when I created the whole store. And then clients started coming to me and saying, Ridhi, since you're selling the rug and the wallpaper and the furniture and all the decor, will you just do the whole room? And I said, yeah, that's actually pretty easy to do. Of course I can do it. The turning point happened when one client said, I really like your aesthetic. Can you do the whole house? And I said, I'm happy to do the whole house, but kitchen and bathroom is something I've never done before. So I want to be totally upfront with you. And they said, it's fine. You bring someone else on board to help with the technicals, but we want your aesthetic. So I said, okay, if you're okay with that, I'd love to do it. And that's when doing full homes and full apartments, that was an inflection point. Then I was doing an apartment and the client kept saying, Ridhi, show me something different, kuch alag dikhao, show me a new material, or will show me pictures and say, what is this material? And I have to be like, no, it's not available in India. And that's when I realized, I said, I'm struggling to find what is new. And I am in South Bombay, access to the best brands, know what's available, and I'm struggling. So imagine everyone else. So that was another turning point where I said, let me just get on Instagram and share whatever knowledge I have, and maybe it will benefit someone. And the aim was to have 10,000 followers, but
Did you have a goal when you started Instagram of 10,000 followers?
I started 1st February 2023, and I had 1,000 followers, and those were all like friends
and families.
I mean, not like I had 1,000 friends, but yeah, like friends and family, and it adds up. And I was like, by December, I want 10,000 followers just to keep it respectable because, you're putting yourself out there. You want to do a good job. So through that journey, in February I went live, and then in April, May, June, July, I would just see these spikes of the follower count increasing. That was a major inflection point because it was so unexpected. I did not think that it would even become a career because I still had my sites on going, like everything was happening. This was just a side hustle that I was doing. So that was an inflection point. And now recently the inflection point would be where I realized a lot of students graduating don't have on-site practical knowledge. Like when you reach site, they don't know how do you pull the wires through the flooring, through the ceiling, and which wires go where. How do you calculate what modules you need for your switch plates? So that's when I was like, you know what, let's make a course, which is something I wish I had when I was 27. And it's practical on-site knowledge to teach you about materials, teach you about electrical planning. If you have a bathroom layout, if you have a kitchen layout, what should it look like? What materials do you use? Tell you about different kind of pricing, what's the cheapest, what's the most expensive, real practical knowledge. So that was the thought. So hence that's the inflection point, and now I'm entering design education.
And what about the low points? While managing this whole thing with the family and what you had mentioned.
I think the low points is managing it all. So when I did have my store, I also had a workshop that would actually cater to the store because I'm making all this furniture. And I would have my site. And I have these two really young kids. So it became too much. The low point was when I had to decide, okay, I'm going to shut shop. I'm going to shut down my store because I can't manage it all. I am enjoying my sites, but there's only that much I can do. So that was definitely a low point because when you shut something down, it is a piece of your heart that you're letting go of. I think another low point is, like we were discussing earlier, I haven't been on site for 2 years and I'm really missing that. I'm itching to go back. So I think that, and I feel it. Like I feel that, you know, the chaos of site or the rawness of site and being like, actually sitting with the karigar and be like, ye tile, ye angle pe dalo, and seeing the detail, I miss that part. So that is something I want to get back to.
But isn't it frustrating? Like if you look at the workmanship, like every detail has to be mentioned here. In India, somewhere when we do our sites and stuff, there is a chalta hai kind of an attitude here.
Yeah.
And the expectation versus what reality is, there's a huge gap unless you're there on the head and getting all things done. Do you think that that's a big challenge?
So I think, so initially when I did my sites, I was there all the time. For me personally, I didn't believe in having a big team. That's just not my style of operations. But now I think when I go back and I think about it actively, I think I'll have to have a team because I can't be as 100% involved. But obviously the knowledge base and the exposure is so much higher now than it was earlier. But you need to have a team that's as meticulous as possible. So you have to choose the correct people, but you have to be there and be like, ye theek se nahi hua hai, ye fix karo, there's a scratch here, you know, there's so much dust, how are you spraying it over here? You have to micromanage.
You go through that, no? Because I mean, that's something that is very emotional.
Every designer goes through that.
When it's very emotional to go to a site and when you don't, you know, when say it's a newly laid tiles and you have a ladder right on top of it without the covering and someone is fixing a light, like that happens to us, and you're like, this is not how it's supposed to be done. That whole emotions. So I've come to a point where I've stopped going to sites. Like, you know,
But then how do you run your sites?
I have my own team. Where
so they have to be very trained and know how you.
They are.
Yeah.
So we have made standard operating procedures, SOPs on every process on how the tile has to be laid.
They have to follow it also.
Yeah, we try that. We try that. It's always a learning process in terms of how training people. So basically what our knowledge, like my personal knowledge, if we can't scale, if I had to be in all the sites,
it's a service industry. It's hard to scale in design.
So I think so that's something where the workmanship is something which we struggle here in India, and that's all we're working on. I think so that can only come through SOPs, what we have realized in the past, and someone supervising. So every site of ours is being supervised by a project manager. If there's no project manager, the site won't be running. So he's managing the whole site.
I think it's also training your team, but also training your contractors.
Yeah. You do that. How do you train your contractors?
I think you just use the contractors so many times over various sites that they know how you like it. And I think it's just again and again and again. So obviously they know that you have to cover the marble before you start any work. And I cover it with POP. I'm very clear. There is no question about it. So it's not even a conversation I want to have by the time I'm on the third site with my contractor. I will look at him and be like, you know what to do next. You know you have to cover it with POP. So I think you have to train your contractor and train your team.
I think that's
both.
the only way out, right? Because the kind of finishes what you want, like what you envision, is not going to come unless you have such a detailed level view on
I
your
also
sites.
think when you work with luxury projects, it's something contractors also enjoy. They also end up making a lot more money, so they want to work with you more. So they also pay a lot of attention because they want to keep getting homes like that with you. So you have to just keep enticing them and having that relationship.
How do you find a right contractor?
Sometimes it's a hit or a miss.
I thought it was only me, only us.
No, I think a lot of it is also word of mouth.
Word of mouth?
Yeah, that's what I've relied on. 70% has been pretty accurate. So if I have a new civil guy, they'll tell you he's not so good with the detailing, but you pay attention to it, but he's a good guy and you can trust him. So you know the flaws and you know the pros and cons before you begin. So, and I think the design community is pretty helpful that way. At least with me, that's been my experience. So you take on this new civil contractor knowing that, and then you go ahead with it.
And with leap of faith, you try and deliver the whole site.
You don't have an option at that point. So yeah.
Have do you work only in a single city like Bombay, or do you work?
Initially, I only did single city because I had 2 little kids and my husband also works full time. So I was still the primary caregiver for my kids. So now that's switched a little bit. Now it might be multi-city, might even be multinational. But initially, it was only one city, just to manage work life and home life balance.
Right. I would like to know more in terms of your inflection points in your influencing, like your content creation. That's something which really excites me as an entrepreneur, because that's something I would want the audience also to know, that what was the point and what worked for you.
So I think picking a niche that no one has done before was a huge inflection point, because no one has done design content creation like this.
You were the
before.
first one.
Yeah, because who else was showing you the latest in products and interior design? I mean, can you think of any name? There's no one really. And not just in India, internationally. There's really no one doing this. So I think that was finding the right niche. And it happened because I felt the need. It wasn't I see a gap in the market and let me go ahead and target it. It wasn't. It was, I felt the need, so I just did it. It's the same with my design courses. I feel the need, so I'm just doing it. So that was a huge decision. Inflection point happened when some of the reels that I was making, which were being shot by my 9-year-old and my 11-year-old daughter at that point, and edited by me, there was no professional production, somehow resonated. If you ask me to look back at those reels and tell you why they went viral, I still cannot tell you. I don't know what it was. Recently, just a few months ago, I had another reel that crossed 30 million views. And it's me pulling curtains. And I was so exhausted that day when I was shooting it. It was my daughter shooting me. I edited it the night before and posted it. I can't tell you why it went viral.
But there should be some trend towards what works for you.
It is showing, if it's something really new, really unique, that ends up going viral. People, for some reason, love seeing doors opening, doors closing. I don't understand that. Cupboards opening, cupboards closing, kitchen doors opening, kitchen doors closing. That's one of those weird ones that I know will take off. But obviously, every piece of content can't be me opening, closing doors. But what takes off is literally showing people something they have never seen before.
So that niche is what you captured.
Yeah.
And when was the point where your whole follow account went to say 100K? Like you would have thought of 10,000, gone to 100K.
So I started 1st February 2023, and in April I had 40,000 followers already. So by then I was like, yay! This is it.
Yeah,
I made it.
We are going for the whole counts and stuff.
I made it. And then in May, something happened. May, June, July, it went from 40,000 to 250,000.
Oh, wow.
In 3 months. And it was just one viral video after another. And I had no idea why it was going viral, but it was going viral.
Still, you say you don't know.
I don't. If I knew, I would make sure every video goes
You had
viral.
it's maybe it's because of you and the kind of unique content what you publish.
I think
which
so.
no one
I
is
think
doing in
it
the
is
market.
just showing people something they've never seen before.
And then what happened after 250K?
So after 250K, I actually panicked because I was like, I'm not understanding what is happening. I don't know who to talk to. And at that point, all my brands that I was showing were my vendors who I've used on site, because I would call them and be like, I really like it. I want to show people. So I'm coming to your office. That's how I was doing it. But now suddenly, because of this growth, I had brands reaching out to me. And they were like, how much do you charge? Who do we talk to? How does it happen? And I said, I don't know. So that's when I started hiring a team, because I didn't know how to manage the situation. And then I met, if you know who Joseph and Joshua Radek are, do you know who they are?
No.
So you must have seen Virat and Anushka's wedding picture, or the Ambani's wedding picture, or Katrina and Alia, all of their wedding pictures. You get these images in your head. Those have been shot by Joseph.
Okay.
And his brother is Joshua, and they do Asian Paints Beautiful Homes, that YouTube series.
Yeah, the way they try to look into their homes and all that
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
So they're very good visually. They understand business. They understand Instagram. So someone introduced me to Joshua, and I didn't know him at all, but they said, why don't you meet him? And I said, yes, I will meet anyone who can tell me what to do at this point. And I told him, I need to meet you. I need to rent your brain for an hour because I have a lot of questions. So we met at a Starbucks, and he asked me a question. He said, Ridhi, you have to decide now. Do you want to be an interior designer, or do you want to be a design content creator? And I intuitively just said, no, design content creator, because no one has done that before. And interior design, I can always take up projects 2 years, 3 years later. There's no rush. So he said, so you're a design content creator and your niche is interior design. Now go build. And that's when I was like, okay, now I have clarity. And that's when I stopped taking on more projects. And that's when I literally went home and I told my husband, I was like, okay, now I know what I'm doing for the next 1 year. Let's give it 1 year. And he, the same evening, had an intervention with my entire family, sat everyone down, and he said, listen, I think Ridhi's hit on something big. I will look after the kids more. I will pull back for the next 6 months. Let's give her 6 months to just fly. Let her do what she wants to do, and let's see where she reaches. And I was like, it's a lot easier said than done. Are you sure? And he said, go fly. I've got your back. I look after the kids a lot more. I mean, figure out work accordingly, but go. I said, okay, I've got these 6 months. I'm going to do everything I possibly can.
It's like you got the bachelorhood and just to do what you want to do.
I don't know, bachelorhood, but I got the green light for sure. And that was definitely an inflection point. Meeting Joshua and my husband having that intervention, and then having the clarity that, okay, next 6 months, let's build this design content creation game. And that's when it went from 250 to 500,000 followers.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. So basically in 1 year, you reach from say 40,000 to say 500,000.
Yeah. In a year, I reached 500,000 followers.
And do you have a team? What's your team size?
I have a team. That's also been a learning curve because I'm not a content influencer, content creator. So I didn't even know who I need. So I first had a small team, then I had a large team. Now I've brought it back down to a small team and I have agencies. So that's how I structure it. So I have a team of 6 people now. And if I need anything specifically, I get an agency or a person involved for that specific project or whatever it is that I need to do. So that's how I've learned to build the business.
You mentioned about going from a large team to a small team. Like, was it a conscious decision of the roles what you wanted or what you envisioned to like you would?
So I think the first role I knew was I needed someone who would just be my gatekeeper, because there was, touch wood, but there was a lot of incoming and there's no way I could reply to everyone. I was missing messages, losing messages, getting confused of who I was talking to. So I said, I need someone to just help me with that. So that's the first person that I got. And God bless her, she saves my life and she's still there. And I was like, I cannot function without her. Then the next person was a videographer because I need someone who understands the way I want to shoot. And while I had my main videographer, I also have different videographers in different cities. But now over time is just sort of him. And if I want to change it up, I have other videographers, but mostly him. Then I said, okay, I have a videographer, but he can't be shooting and editing because I wasn't getting my reels on time and then I'm not posting on time. So I hired an editor. So that was like the step-by-step process. Then I said, I need someone, and there was a lot of opportunity coming. I wasn't able to decipher good opportunities versus bad opportunities. It was just confusing. So I said, let me hire someone who is marketing or brand strategy, as they call it. That didn't really work out because ultimately I was still doing everything. So I was like, okay, cancel. Now I know this is something I don't need. I had someone for marketing because I said, okay, let me see if someone can help for marketing. That also, I realized ultimately I'm wearing the thinking cap, so cancel, don't need. Then hired someone because I get a lot of DMs on a daily basis and I like to make sure that I answer everyone. So up till very recently, I was answering everyone. Now I have someone who just manages any kind of inquiry, messages, anything coming through. That has been interesting because I still want to know what the pulse is of the people, but that's something I balance. So she's there. Then I got someone who does PR. I said, maybe I need PR. I'm not sure. That also was a cancel because it didn't help. It kind of
Because
gives like...
sometimes it feels like you're only doing the thinking. Then why do you need that person?
And PR was coming naturally anyway. So it was literally whatever was incoming is what that person was managing. So I don't need that. That was anyway coming. And then I have a stylist because I'll give you a fun story. So Mr. Sunil Shetty, very sweet. We were chatting on DM. I don't know him at all, but he was very kind. And he said, here's my number. Call me right now. I have an idea, something I want to talk to you about. And I was in Coimbatore going to Isha Foundation to meet Sadhguru. I was like, what is happening in my life right now? But let's do this. So called up Mr. Sunil Shetty and he said, Ridhi, I think you're on point for what you're doing, but I think your fashion sense is good, but you need to hire a stylist so you can go all the way for fashion. And I said, I don't know. I don't want to be a fashion creator. I'm very niche. Like I am an interior designer. I want to stay in design. And he was like, no, stay in design. But I think you can communicate a lot through fashion. And I said, okay, I mean, you know what you're talking about, so let's go ahead and do it. It was a lovely 30-minute conversation. And then I actually did it. So hired a stylist. So now I have someone on board.
Full-time stylist.
Full-time. So initially I was doing it myself where I would DM people. But now she manages that part of it. So that's another person. Then I have research because I need to make sure that I am finding the latest in interiors and whatever is available. And I have a design intern. So she helps more with who is now leaving because she's graduating. I'm looking for another intern. I really like her, but I need someone else. But just to, the little bits and bobs that need to get done, just to help with that. So that's kind of, I hope I haven't left anyone out, but that's been the process.
So what is the major skill, what you see? Because this is a very niche skill, what you do. Like when you're hiring as a content creator, like not as an interior designer and content creator. So there are a few skills what you need to validate, like whether the person fits in. And there's a lot of back and forth. So what are the things what you now look at?
So for the most part, I don't need anyone who knows design. So when they join me, they'll be like, we don't know anything about design. I said, I know about design. I don't need you to know about design. You do something else. So I'm not looking at design, but I am looking at people skills. Very important because all they do is communicate with people all day, need to be very fluent with English, and need to be very organized. I'm not asking for some major requirement, but people skills, organization, and then I'll tell you exactly what I want and I just need to get it done. My one rule is you need to be accessible to me 24/7 because I have events Friday night, Saturday night, some even on Sunday. So if I'm calling to check something, you have to pick up Because there's no office. They don't come to office Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I don't believe in that. A lot of them are stay-at-home moms. So they balance work with looking after their child. But if I call, you need to be available.
Because of your crazy travel
Because
schedules.
content creation's a 365, 24-hour game. There's no Saturday, Sunday off in content creation. If anything, public holidays and Saturday, Sundays are more important than weekdays are. So I need the person to be very available.
Those are very unique skills. What you mentioned about it's about being organized, being available all the time because
have to be available.
Things work for you.
Yeah.
I think of that. I mean, we relate a lot because sometimes you look at the technical skills, and I feel and how difficult it is to find a person who's not good. I mean, who's good at communication. I like personally when we hire interior designer. First thing we look at whether the person is client facing or not client facing,
right?
And finding a person who's technically good and client facing is a task.
It's hard. It's very difficult
really
finding
hard.
someone who has the skill of both. But I'm only looking for good communication and people skills. So I think I have a good judge. When I'm interviewing them, I can pick up on it. If you see someone who's a little rough around the edges, then I'm like, no, because it's my reputation and brand at stake. So I won't take the risk.
So world of design, the world of design is constantly changing. How do you stay relevant, and how do you come up with new products, new trends?
It's evolved through time. Initially, I would sit and do a lot of research where I would go on the internet, whether it's websites, social media, and just keep finding myself. And I would outreach. Now I think because people know me and they know what I do, a lot of brands reach out to me.
Okay.
So now what I do is if I have a certain number of brands reaching out, I do my due diligence and see, okay, which one do I want to talk about, or is it actually new or is it not new? So the process has reversed, but I do have a research team. Like I told you, I have one person who just focuses on this, and if she needs help, then I do have more people on not like an agency, like a consultancy service almost, where they sit and they do research. So I want to change my page in a certain way. Maybe you'll see it in some time. So I have now a team working on what kind of content would be appropriate if I want to switch my page a little bit.
Okay. And I mean, do you see that the design trends are changing in India? Like now you look at interior designing. Earlier was a taboo in India, like to hire an interior designer. It was like a big deal. Now there's so many interior designers in the market. And if you look at, I mean, we met at AD, and if you look at the number of unique products which are coming in, so now I think a lot of startups a lot of focus has become interior products, new product development. And globally, this trend was already there. So India is picking up in terms of interior designing. How do you think that India as a market in future would be?
I think you touched on two verticals. I'm going to add a third one. The first vertical would be product design. Second vertical would be interior design. And the third vertical, which I'm adding, is being an architect and architectural design. I think in terms of product design, India has now found its own language, which initially 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, it was all about copying what was happening in Europe and see if you can make it cheaper in India, but with decent quality. I think now designers are very India proud and are creating their own designs without looking at Pinterest images. And clients are respecting that and wanting those brands and not wanting those Italian brands being imported in. So I think there's a massive shift, which is why the product design industry has grown so much. Especially after COVID, I feel there's been a boom, and cities like Ahmedabad, Delhi, Surat, there's just so much happening over there. And there are people buying. It wouldn't happen if people were not buying. So people are buying, investing in Indian brands. And now someone just asked me the other day, do I need to go to China? I said, if it's for furniture, you don't need to go to China anymore. Unless it's bulk orders, then 50-50 on that. If it's home decor, you could maybe look at China. But if it's furniture design, India is killing it right now. In terms of interior designers, I think a lot of people still use Pinterest as a guiding force in terms of their design, when I feel it should be opposite. First, you think of what you want to design, and then use Pinterest as reference images. Right now, Pinterest is dictating what the design should be, and then you create based on what you see. It should be the other way around. But I do see a lot of interior designers experimenting more. So if you see homes in Dubai or the GCC area or even the UK, a lot of the homes look the same, right? You open a magazine, very modern, very straight lines, hues of grays and beige, very much the same. But if you see homes in India, you see a lot of terracotta, you see a lot of round shapes, a lot of experimentation. So I think that is also opening up in India for interior designers. I think architecture is one of the hardest ones. I think architecture is, because I think the budgets are just so much larger. You're building an entire building that a lot of multinational corporations are thinking, let me get an architect from abroad and let him design, and then we'll execute in India. So I think that's a harder glass ceiling to break. It will happen. It is happening. We have a lot of green projects and gold standard and platinum and all of those commercial buildings coming up. But I think architecture is the hardest one to break. But I think product design and interior design is definitely growing.
It's growing in India, no?
Yeah.
And I feel, and you promote a lot of local artisans and
Yeah.
crafts. Would you like to talk more on those things?
I'm very passionate about traditional Indian craft because I think it's our generation, not even the one above or the one below, but it's our generation that has to preserve traditional Indian craft. Otherwise, it's just going to disappear. Our kids are going to get 10% of what we have right now. And the only way to do that is to modernize traditional Indian craft. So I use my platform to show you the craft and show you how you can modernize it in hopes that interior designers see it or clients see it and say, let's make a bar unit out of bidri work, or let's make a light out of a specific traditional craft. So just to inspire, encourage, put the word out there, create awareness, I think it's really important.
And I think so. We were doing an office long back, and there was a designer who was again managing the whole project, came to India. And when she was researching more, and she wanted a lot of local elements in their office spaces, like the local craftsmanship in terms of fabric, in terms of lights and all that stuff. So I think so. These trends are a lot of foreigners also look at India as a trending market because these things are not available outside. Like
Correct.
those colors, and we are more vibrant as a country. So you think that as a country, like these design trends would be picked up by someone in abroad?
I think so, because I see now a lot of interior designers doing projects outside India, which clearly means they want a slight Indian aesthetic, which was not happening 15 years ago. So I'll tell you my experience. I get a lot of DMs from Indians living across the world saying, we had no idea that India had so much. I get messages from Portugal, from Australia, from, all sorts of parts of the world, and they say, Ridhi, we had no clue that India was so advanced in design. We feel our country is lacking.
Oh wow, that's nice.
Yeah, imagine coming from Australia or from other countries. I was like, what? I'm so happy to hear that. So I think design that way is definitely, Indian design is definitely going a lot more global. I was talking to Kelly Hoppin a few months ago. I met her in Dubai, and she's doing a project in India. So I said, when you come to India, what do you look at? And she looked at me and she's like, your craft. I'm excited to work in India because of your craft. Where else do you find craft like this? And I said, I completely agree. Right answer. 10 on 10 for that answer, because we have craft the way no other country in the world has craft. We actually have the creativity, the entrepreneurial spirit, and the craftsmanship. We have everything we need to be a world leader in design. We're not there yet, but hopefully 10, 15, 20 years from now, we will be.
As you had rightly mentioned, when you see abroad, the homes are they are more on slate. They're white, they're grays, they're black.
Yep.
Here you see so many colors. Like most of our clients come to us and they want colors. They
Yeah.
want blues, and
Orange.
they like to orange and
I see,
red,
yeah.
and there's some weird request like pink,
Yeah.
and all that stuff comes in. So I think so that vibrancy in terms of the color combinations is much more here in India, and people are
think
experimenting more.
Indians are just open to experimentation far more than a lot of other ethnicities. There's just no two ways about it, which is how you see it in the homes that are being designed now.
So where do you get your inspiration from? Growing up, who's your design inspiration?
Well, currently I have two inspirations, and for two very different reasons. One is Ferris Rafauli. I don't know if you know who he is. He is amazing when it comes to stone.
Okay.
So he does ultra luxurious homes, and these ultra luxurious homes are all made of stone. But the way he works with stone, and he has these labs, he calls them labs, where he's just constantly experimenting. And the minute he's perfected something in a lab, he puts it on a site. It's not that he's creating for a site. The process is opposite. He first creates, and then he thinks, okay, let me put it on a site. So the way he plays with material is just astounding. The scale at which he builds is also incredible. And for a different reason would be Kelly Ressler, because I think she's mastered the social media game. She's mastered the interior design game. She's mastered the product line game. So that is something I wish I would like that to be my dot point in terms of where I would like to go.
And few Indian designers, you really follow their work?
No, don't get me into trouble. They're all my friends. I'm not picking anyone.
You being safe, yeah.
I'm being safe.
So you've recently touched almost 700,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
How do you maintain consistency in terms of posting content?
Consistency is one of the hardest things. For example, I don't know what is going live tomorrow yet because my video is not ready. So the way you're supposed to do it as a content creator is you have a bank of 1 month's data ready to go. That's what you're supposed to do. I try to do that, but it doesn't end up happening that way because unlike a fashion creator who gets clothes sent to them and in one day you can shoot 10 different outfits and you're done with 10 different reels, no one can ship me marble and no one can send me furniture. So for each reel, I need to travel. So that's one entire day gone for each reel. So consistency is very difficult. And especially since I'm trying to do so much more, that's a constant struggle. That's something my team is constantly, Ridhi, send the voiceover, Ridhi, send the edits, Ridhi, send the subtitles, what is it, any different thing. That's a constant push and pull that my team has with me because time is
it's
the biggest
difficult.
limitation.
Like managing the whole consistency is one of the difficult part.
It's difficult for a design content creator.
Okay, for a design
because
content
of the
creator.
amount of travel that's required.
But still you manage quite well. Like, I mean, you always buzzing on
hope.
the page. I see all this, the red tick and stuff. That's pretty good. And how do you engage people in terms of your content? Do you think on it? Like when you sit down and you think on it that this is the content which is going to engage, or it's something which you keep posting and sometimes it works and sometimes it does not?
I'll give you a very honest answer. Me as a person, I am not the most where I want feedback, right? Like I'm just telling you about the product, and if you like it, then I hope you reach out to the brand and use it. And that's kind of how the content has been so far. Every once in a while, if I want to hear from the audience, I will say, hey, if you're an artist, send me your work. Or if you're an up-and-coming interior designer, send me your work. That's when I want to hear from them. And now that I am going into the design education space, now that's when I realize, wait, I need a lot more engagement, which isn't something that I focused on earlier. Because I was happy in my own little bubble world where I find a great product, I make a video, and I put it out on Instagram. And it does well, but I'm not really getting that communication. Is it going viral and going crazy? Yes, but I'm not getting that communication. And I was okay with it. I wasn't even thinking about it. Now I need to actively think about it because the other vertical I'm entering requires that kind of engagement. So I need to figure that one out.
But do you take it on your head? Does it get onto your head in terms
It
of
does.
what works, what does not work?
It does. It didn't. Okay, let's put it this way. It didn't initially when I started out because I didn't take it seriously. Then it really impacted me. And then I met, if you know who Tanmay Bhat is, he's a very famous comedian. I just DM'd him and I was like, I saw your show on Nikhil Kamat's podcast. I love what you said. I think it makes logical sense. I want to meet you. And he said, okay, come this weekend. I'm free. So took my team and went and met him, and he explained to me, he's like, Ridhi, you can't watch every video and see how many views and likes it gets. You have spikes. So out of 10 videos, you'll get one spike. And that is a good percentage. So once he told me that, and that's someone who's gone through this, right, for multiple years. Once he told me that, I was like, okay. So now I'm a lot calmer. My team is a lot calmer. We don't get hyper if one video doesn't do as well as the other videos. So that's how I managed. And now I'm very calm about it.
What do you think? It's more quantity or more quality? Like it's more, how does social media work? So I have two views to it. I always focus on terms of more quality content has to go when we put on our page. That's the debate which I have with my marketing team. But my partner says like, let's focus on the quantity because the number of content which goes, that also matters a lot. So what is your view on this?
So I think it's a mix. Instagram tells you that you should post twice a day, every day. Now, I think that's a very toxic relationship. If someone has to see me twice a day, every day, I would unfollow myself. Like that's just way too much. So I found a balance as to what is a comfortable amount that someone would want to watch me. I post about 4 times a week. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 5, depending on how consistent I am. But 4 is kind of the average. And then I had, if you know who Foodpharmer is.
Yes.
So he came over for dinner one day and I was like, how often do you post? And he said, I try for once a week. And I was like, yeah, once a week?
Oh my God. That's
So that's amazing, right? So that just tells you that there is no rule in this. You have to do what works for you. So I found my balance for my page and my audience. But if it's someone who's doing daily news, then it's a lot more. If it's someone who's trying to get your attention, like Foodpharmer is, to kind of make a point every single time, once a week works for them. So it really depends on what works for you.
How much does social media play a role in terms of our in design industry, the interior design industry?
I think it plays a much bigger role than people even realize because a lot of clients are watching. So I keep getting messages from interior designers saying, my client sent this video to me again. It's once a week I'm getting videos about you. So I think the clients are getting a lot more aware. While the interior designers and architects are obviously getting a lot more aware of what's available, so are the clients. So it is influencing what they want in their homes and offices, right? So I think it does have a huge role. I think it helps a lot in personal brand building, which is something I talk about a lot. And you've seen it with enough creators that the minute you go on social media and people know your name, your brand value increases. So being on social media definitely helps. I tell every designer you have to be on social media. No one's asking about business card and website anymore. The first thing people do is open up Instagram and see what kind of work you've done. So I think it makes a huge difference in the world of design.
What is your tip to someone who's starting off their interior designing company, be it home, be it office? And as a person, like what is something which you would have done in your 21-year-old?
So I wish I did this. It was to document every single thing I designed. I don't have a lot of documentation of what I did. I have pictures on my phone, but I didn't get it professionally shot. I think anyway, now people are a lot more aware. So even if they do one little bathroom, it's shot in 25 different angles. But document every single thing. But I don't think just splash it on Instagram. That's not what I would do. If I was a budding interior designer, I would actually showcase my skill. So I would say there was a pillar here and therefore I had to design around it and this was my design solution. So I would showcase what my creative input is. It's not just here's a picture of a table, but what was your thought process? What was the problem and how did you solve it? What did you bring to the table in that picture? So that's what I think people need to start doing in showcasing their work.
So a lot of these companies, so since we come from office background, so we design office fit outs and stuff, a lot of content creators are there in home. So people are focusing more on homes. Do you think there's a huge market for office spaces or someone retail spaces, restaurants or any of those segments?
So I think home is something that everyone's interested in. And And that's already niche. Doing design content creation is already a niche. Now, if you want to go even more niche, then you would go into a restaurant game or like only offices and showing very specific things. But you have to understand your growth is limited. So even for me, now, while I hit 500,000 followers in 1 year, why have I not hit 1 million, 2 million followers up till now, right? That would be the question.
Yeah.
That's because I'm in a niche and growth is limited. I also don't do certain types of videos like Amazon hacks and, that kind of stuff because I want a certain type of audience following. Mine is very clear. It's luxury, it's premium, it's quality. It's not just anyone.
Random people following you.
It's not just any brand is paying me money, so I'm telling you about it. I don't follow that at all. So because my content is so curated, I think it attracts an audience that appreciates that. So there is a certain glass ceiling when it comes to that. So if you go more niche, which is restaurants or commercial, then your reach would be still very good quality, but a smaller amount.
But it's more relevant, right? It's something which is going to generate you results if you're targeting
Yes.
that audience.
Yeah. So I'm okay if I'm not growing to 2 million followers. That's not my aim at all. But I want to make sure whoever follows me it's a quality game. I have quality followers on my Instagram. That's what I care about.
You don't want random people to follow you. You want the relevant people to follow you?
I think it's not fair. Like for me, I am talking about certain brands, and it's not fair for me to talk about brands without giving them results as well. So I want to make sure if I'm talking about a brand, that they also get results from my page. It's very clear. I go back and ask every brand, how was the feedback? How was the response? So that I know. And so far, touch wood, everyone's had a great response. So I know my audience is very educated, very interested in design, high quality audience, and I'm very proud of that. So it's not a quantity game completely.
And how do you get more brand deals? What is key to getting more brand deals?
Initially, I would reach out to brands when people did not know who I was. I have no ego about it.
How do you reach out to brands?
I would just DM them.
Okay.
This is literally when I had 2,000, 3,000 followers. No one knows who I am. And I would just DM them saying, I really like your products. No one is paying you at that point.
Okay.
But, can you send me a sample or can I visit your store and I'd love to shoot it? That's how you start. I really have no ego when I say it. I've gone into stores and I've asked the salesperson. I remember I did this for Venzo Wood here at Raghuvanshi Mills. And I asked the salesperson, will you shoot me? Will you film this for me? And she was thankfully very good at it. And that's what I released. And I did really, really well. So I have no problem saying I want to come in and shoot.
Now the stories are different, no? Now brands reach out to you.
No.
No.
But it starts that way, right? You got to have no ego and just kind of put yourself out there, which I'm...
Really, what's your day like? Like, how do you
Which
schedule
day?
your day?
Which day of which week of which
Say,
month?
how's your week? Do you plan your week, your month?
I plan my entire year. So if you see my diary, I know relatively what I'm doing the entire year. Week by week gets planned with my team. So they manage my calendar to the hour. But every day is different. Like I told you, before coming to this podcast, I went to my daughter's tuition teacher orientation because she's shifting curriculum. After this, I'm going to go home, be with my kids for 2 hours, and then I'm going to work from 9 to 11. Tomorrow, I'm shooting 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. for my course. Saturday, also, I'm shooting the entire day. Then Sunday, I'm home, and I'll be with my kids and with my husband. But I also have meetings happening for 20 minutes somewhere in the middle when I know that they're busy. They're with friends, they're playing. So I structure it. Every day is different.
And that helps you in terms of you plan. Does it in your calendar, if I have to open your calendar, was it your work and your personal, everything comes in that calendar or it's only your work?
My calendar is very analog. I handwrite everything.
Okay.
There's nothing on Google Calendars. I tried that, it didn't work. But everything is planned. So my work and my kids, that's it. I only have that. I have no other social life. I have nothing else happening. So my work, my kids, my husband, my family, it's all jammed into one to-do list in a day.
How do you manage your work-life balance? Is there a myth actually, or you actually manage it?
No, I think I manage it. My family's happy. So that I think is a good sign that I manage it. But it's not actually managing it. I think it's integrating it into your life. There's certain days where my kids and my husband and my family is just more important. And there's certain days where work is just more important. So and communication's important. So I have sat down with my family and I said, listen, I'm doing these design courses. For these many months, I will be shooting. It will take this much extra time away from what I do from Instagram. And are you okay with that? Because that's that much time away from you. And they all are on board saying, Mom, go for it. Like, we're fine. And if we need you, we'll call you. And I have certain SOPs in process for my kids in case they need me while I'm shooting. So it's that communication where they understand. And I told them, okay, April onwards, I'm a lot more free, coordinated with their summer holidays. So when they are traveling for internships or summer school or whatever, I'm also traveling with them. But they're in their summer program, then I'm working. When their summer program ends, my work meetings end. So it's all very coordinated.
So you're very well planned. That's the
I'm
reason.
just very well planned. I'm like
That's-
alpha type A in organization and time management.
That's really nice. So how important is education in our industry, interior designing industry?
I think on-site practical knowledge is incredibly important. You obviously also need to know about different forms of design and how different architects and interior designers have built different spaces. But practical on-site knowledge, I feel a lot of students are not getting that and graduating. So I feel that is lacking. I felt that was lacking for me when I graduated as an interior designer.
And you're working on a course for interior designers. Was it
Yes.
only for interior designers, or is it for contractors?
It is interior design for beginners. So
Okay.
anyone can take this course. There's no prerequisite. It's an online course, so it's available to everyone, and it's self-paced. So you can go through it over 1 week or 1 month, and then I'll have monthly webinars to follow up on that. So it is literally for anyone who wants to switch career, for students, for interior design graduates, someone who's just started a practice. It's very open-ended, and I've kept that. Going to shoot an entire project beginning to end, a large size project and a small size project, and show the entire process. Then I have interior styling and interior decorating as a course coming out. And then I also have business of design coming out. So different courses through the year that will be released.
And so encyclopedia, I mean, that's covering the whole segment of interior designing.
It's everything I wish I knew as an interior designer when I was starting.
And how about thinking on you mentioned you had a kid store where you were doing furniture for kids. Do you think that you would want to start your own product line?
I'm tempted to start my own product line, but I think I'd prefer to do collaborations with brands and have my own edit. I think this year is maybe the year to do something like that, but not my own product line yet. I don't want to get into having my own inventory and collecting all
That's
of
a lot
that.
of work, no?
Yeah,
It's-
maybe a few years from now, but I think I want to start with brand collaborations first and designing my own product line or creating edits.
And what's your take on sustainability? Like how India as a market, are we looking at
So-
sustainability or?
I think everyone loves to say they're sustainable. I think everyone likes to be aware of what is sustainable. But from my experience on Instagram and seeing consumer behavior on real-time basis, I don't think Indian consumers put their money where their mouth is when it comes to sustainability.
I had a client. He's running a tech company. There's a brand called PaceWisdom whom I was working with. For their ISO audit, they asked me on what kind of materials are you. Please use low walk paint quality, it's more sustainable. Then they asked me to use materials which is good to the nature. Like they asked me because they're
But this is a commercial. This
is an office space.
So that's another huge difference that I see, that a lot of companies are very mindful of this, whereas personal residential homes are not. So there is a huge divide. If it's a commercial space, look at the number of commercial buildings that are a lot more sustainable as opposed to residential buildings which are not that sustainable.
I think the decision making is more driven, and it's more on homeowners. And when it comes to your own spending, you're obviously like, okay, fine, let it be. Whatever
Correct.
is cheaper, just go ahead with that.
Yeah.
In terms of the corporate, they're more compliant towards their audits and towards their global norms, because global norms also, we do a lot of offices where they come up with completely try to make the entire office sustainable, and we're like, yeah, this is great. Where you paying us to be sustainable.
But
that's
you
nothing
would
like
know best. What is the difference between commercial buildings being sustainable or having the, what is it, gold and platinum
you
certificate?
get. And it's a very easy certificate to get. So
Yeah, but how many residential buildings have that?
very few.
It's
very
like
few.
maybe 50:1.
Yeah, 50:1. I agree to that. Culturally, how we are into office spaces. We design office spaces. So basically, for employee well-being, a well-designed office space is a must to have.
Yeah.
So what is your take in terms of having how much does design help the culture of a company?
Such a funny question. I was just talking to someone and they were saying we were in this office that was so well designed, but we still left it. And I said, why did you leave that company? And they said, because the company culture did not have any work-life balance. So even though it paid me more and the office was really well designed, I did not care to work there because of work-life balance. And I was like, wow, that is what you actually first have to focus on. But I think in terms of design, of course, you want an office where people have a lot of human interaction. No one is stuck into cubicles. I think those days are gone. And I think design plays a huge role, right? And just having that mental state of mind, seeing that greenery, having open space, having areas where you can actually think and sit by yourself, have areas where you can have discussions. That's where the person is for hours in a day. So design has a huge role.
Great.
It also makes you more efficient.
Yeah,
Design has the ability to make a workspace more efficient.
We recently delivered an office in San Jose, and the client, when they asked me to design space, so we work on these ratios of say 50 or 100 square feet per person you'd require for that space. So they're like, no, we want more open spaces. I'm like, why? He's like, just to build that collaboration in terms of that thing. So what you do is you design spaces where they have a permanent workspace and they can work from anywhere in other spaces. And those other spaces where they spend most amount of time and they don't want to work from their workspaces. That's the whole culturally
Mindset.
the mindset. Because in home you're more relaxed, you're working from your couches, you're working from anywhere what you want, no? Because you're more moving around. Same thing they want in office space
I think
also.
the interesting question would be, does design dictate the culture or does the culture dictate the design of a space?
I would say culture dictates the design. I mean, depends on what company culture is.
Because you build so many offices, which is
so
why
I think so the culture.
So the culture tells you, okay, you want these many collaborative
100%,
spaces.
100%. Culture is what they want, and culturally also people are. Depends on the company. Some companies are more in a hybrid culture. Some companies like you come to office every day. Some companies want their employees not to come to office every day. So because they want to keep the cost low and they can work. So I think so. I think culture defines the whole thing.
Good, I got my answers.
So the one of your favorite questions: if you had a big billboard right outside your home, what would be the message to the entire world?
This question got me thinking. But I think it would be make your own music, dance to your own rhythm. It's something I saw when I was very young and it stuck with me in my head. And I think I've always liked doing things my own way and creating my own path. So that's what I hope it says.
And how does it relate to your business? Or is it not something which relates to your business?
No, I think what I've done on Instagram is very much that,
Very,
right?
very
I've
much
danced
that.
to my own rhythm and
You
done
didn't- you
things
didn't-
my own
and
way.
you didn't care about what the other people are saying.
Yeah, even these design courses, I'm doing it my way. I don't think it's ever been done like this.
My way or no way?
Just my way.
It's just my way. Thanks a lot, Ridhi. It was
you.
a pleasure. I got to learn a lot of things. One of my key takeaways is not think too much while creating content.
Yeah.
And just be bindas like you. Yeah, that's
Just
something
let go. I think
just
it's
on the
fine.
go.
I think people are kind and forgiving. Just let go.
And I feel you're doing really well in terms
Thank
of managing
you.
your work-life balance. That's something a very few people are not being able to achieve.
That's
that.
because I have nothing else happening.
And that's okay. That's okay. It's if it's your two things are doing okay, I think so.
Yeah. No, I'm very happy.
You're
I'm
more
very
content, and
happy.
I could see that. And
Yeah.
and you evolving. Keep inspiring, and best of luck.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.